Okay. We are grateful that only in Bangladesh we are implementing Indigenous Navigator project with ILO, and so far we are having very good experience as the ILO National Project Coordinator. He himself is an indigenous, that's why coordination among us is superb. And next please. This is the ethnic composition of Bangladesh, and so far government recognized 50 indigenous groups, but according to the government language it is ethnic minority. So among the 50 indigenous groups, during our data gathering week, we conducted the community data gathering in 25 communities from across the country, and you can, next please. Yeah. There are officially 1.2 million indigenous people, but we indigenous people believe that it is more, it will be, the total population is more than 3 million. I also already recognized by government 50 indigenous communities, and most of the concentration, concentration of indigenous people are in Chittagong heat tracts, but there are many pockets in plain land where indigenous people also live in the plain land. And Bangladesh is one of the countries that ratified ILO Convention 107, and now we are encouraging and advocating to Bangladesh government so that they come forward to ratify the ILO Convention 169. And for this, here just one poverty ratio. If we compare here, the national poverty ratio is 23.2, whereas the indigenous people's poverty ratio is 70 to 80%. And for this project, from the Bangladesh government perspective, the Ministry of Chittagong heat tracts is the focal ministry. And next, please. We conducted community data gathering from 25 communities and covered 486 individuals. Next, please. Now, I would like to share about some of the findings on education and also employment. So, less than half of the indigenous children seem to attend organized learning and preschool before they start attending primary school. For the boys, this is 40%. 25% respondents say that none of the boys from the indigenous communities attend such organized learning sessions. As for girls, the ratio is 36%, while a similar 24% respondents say that no girls from the indigenous communities attend preschool. However, majority, if not the most of the children, do seem to attend primary school as per the replies of the respondents from the community data gathering. Next, please. This is, though a considerable percent of drop out in secondary school. Here from the table we can see that 2 out of 5 boys dropout rate is 36%, and whereas the girls 1 out of 5 dropout rate is 36%. Similarly, there are also very few where seems to be complete they complete the tertiary level of education. Another significant findings from the community data, there is an alarming level of inability of the indigenous children and young people to read and write in their mother tongue. That continues all the way from preschool to lower secondary level. While 92% of the indigenous children are incapable of reading in their own indigenous languages, the percentage still persists at 88% at the lower secondary level. This is also reflected in the subsequent question during the data gathering, whereby 92% say that all classes in primary school are taught in non-indigenous languages, presumably Bengali, which is the national media of instruction in school. Now about the accessibility of the school. less than half of the indigenous children have schools within inaccessible areas. And during the data gathering, we also consider the government schools, government primary schools. The culture, traditions, and heritages of indigenous people is little reflected in a positive manner in the primary school curricula. 54% of the respondents felt that these not at all reflected, whereas 44% thought that this is the case only to limited extent. Because previously there were sub-derogatory and some information about the indigenous people in the national curricula. So this was, we communicated with the National Board of Curricula, and accordingly they have corrected some of the textbooks. In terms of employment, an overwhelming percentage of the indigenous peoples communities continue their traditional occupations. In the response of the question, can your community perform their traditional occupations? The community responded that to a limited extent is 56%, to some extent 20%, and to considerable extent is 16%. It is nevertheless clear that traditional occupation of the indigenous peoples communities are receding, and evidence of the rapid socio-economic and cultural changes that these communities are currently going through. It is also revealing from the fact that most of the young people seems no more engaged in vocational education, training, or employment, meaning that vast majority of them are unemployed or are search of employment, and those who have, very few of them are employed in formal sector, such as they have jobs with normal work hours and regular wage that are recognized as income sources on which income taxes must be paid. Consequently, there is significant level of out-migration. I think next. Yeah. Although it is more noticeable for seasonal out-migration and particularly for the young men, there is equally an alarming high percentage of child labor in the community, and child labor that affects education of boys aged between 5 to 11 years is 68%, and 12 to 14 years is 80% respectively. So now, if we, the next please, with these kinds of community data, what we are doing with this data, we are engaging with the different government agencies and department so that we can reach those government agencies to make them clear that as we have the evidence that what is the data gap between the national data and the community data, and we are also sharing all this information with the national CSOs in Bangladesh. Kapaeeng Foundation and Bangladesh Indigenous Peoples Forum, we are the part of Citizens Platform for SDGs. This is the more than 80 CSOs that the member of this platform. So we regularly shared this type of findings with this large number of CSOs about the situation of indigenous people. And at the same time, we are also working with the National Human Rights Organization so that they can also advocate from their perspective. And those advocacy initiatives or efforts are reflected in different reports, periodic reports and thematic reports of National Human Rights Commission. And we are also sharing all these things, different regional and global level forums where people came to know about the facts and figures of SDGs implementation status of a particular country as like Bangladesh. So now I would like to share some of the success about through this engagement or by using all this data information. At the very beginning, we are trying to engage with Bangladesh, different agencies of Bangladesh government, and with the repeated our engagement with Bangladesh Bureau of Statistics, finally they agreed. Now Bangladesh government is preparing themselves for their next national census. We'll have our national census in 2021. So as we are advocating with the BBS, now they agreed to include, previously there was no disaggregated data, now they are including the ethnicity-wise information. So from the next census, we are getting information on ethnicity. So this is the development from our engagement. And also, previously our indigenous groups were not recognized by the government, but as we are engaged with government and repeatedly raising our demands, and finally last 23rd, very recently, government recognized 50 indigenous groups through their gazette notification, but not as the indigenous, but as small ethnic groups. And also another thing is, right now we are having seven 5-year plan, and Bangladesh government is now on their way to formation of the 8th 5-year plan, and the concerned ministry, I mean the planning ministry, already contacted with us. They want to incorporate some of our use some of our information for planning the 8th 5-year plan for indigenous people. So if we engage together, we work together, we are very hopeful that we can use and influence our government to come forward to make our development plan, so that we indigenous people will no longer be left behind in the implementation of the SDGs. Thank you.
Thank you so much.